Welcome to Meet Your Rep, candid discussion with the senators serving in the Virgin Islands Legislature.
I'm Saida Harrigan for Legit TV, and we're here for another edition of Meet Your Rep. So we're going to be speaking with Senator Tregenza A. Roach, who is in his second term. Hi, Senator.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well, thanks.
So we want to know about you as a person. Tell me what it was like for you growing up in Sandy Point.
Well, I think when you come from two places, it's very interesting because your life is bifurcated. You can say, at this year I was in this place, and then this year I was in this other place. So I lived in Sandy Point from when I was born until early in my 8th year. And it was a place that was really dominated by nature. The mountain was really present in the landscape. We lived close to a beach in St. Kitts. So the experience of the fishermen coming in daily, bringing in fish, and the people going to the sea to get the fish. A lot of old people, because that was a time when elders were really at the center of your society, so you had a lot of regard for them, and they were like the people in control. So they dominated the landscape. At the time, too, in St. Kitts, there was a lot of movement, a lot of migration. My aunts and my uncles had moved to England and Curacao and St. Croix and St. Thomas. And so that too was a part of the social landscape, dealing with people who were leaving, children who were following their parents, or children who were left behind waiting on their parents to send for them. All of that dominated the landscape. But I think I was really, really taken by the natural beauty of the island. Just as every island in the Caribbean, to me, each one has an incredible beauty. And I was really taken by that. I just had the feeling that I was born in a very special time. I was seeing the cusp where people still didn't have electricity in their houses, where people still had outdoor toilets, and the Caribbean was changing. It was the beginning of that change. So I feel like I was born at the end of a time, and then being able to witness some of the change that was taking place. And then when we came to St. Thomas, St. Thomas was different because St. Thomas was more developed. St. Thomas had so much more going on, so much more activity. The cruise ships, the new hotels, the new developments, a much faster pace of life, even though it was not very far away. A very, very different place. But still a place with some of the same characteristics, where the elders, again, were the centers of our families and the center of the society. And so I really felt privileged to have a very, very beautiful childhood in both places.
Were you aware of it at the time that you were experiencing those two dynamics?
I think that my senses, my feeling about what was taking place around me was really heightened by the fact that I had to deal with the separation from my parents at a young age. Because my dad had come to St. Thomas when I was like 3. And my mom stayed with us. And then when I was 5, I think, my mom came to St. Thomas, so I was left with my grandparents. So I think when you have to make adjustments as a child, when you have to deal with adult kinds of situations, like the feelings of abandonment, the feelings of loss, the feelings of this incredible period of movement and change, I think that heightens your awareness of your circumstances. And maybe now in retrospect, when I look back, I see myself in that time and I think about my consciousness, but I think it was that heightening of the emotions because I had to process a lot as a child. You know, I had to process a lot. Why did my father leave? Why are people leaving? What's wrong with this place? Adult issues like, you know, children are happy.
Yeah.
You know, you have your parents and you have your grandparents, you have mangoes, you have guineas, you have bananas. You have all this, you're happy. You don't understand economics and why people have to move from one place to the other. So I think that kind of cauldron of trying to figure out all the pieces and to understand what was happening to me and what was happening to my family, I think it heightened my awareness of what was taking place at a young age. And it makes you grow fast.
True.
You have to mature because you have to be able to figure out how to accept things and to adjust to the realities that are there. You know?
Wow. What sparked your interest back then?
I think I was very, very intrigued by the experiences of older people, the wisdom of older people. And although I lived in a time, I mean, there was a time when children were to be seen and not heard. So you had a lot of time to listen.
Yeah.
You had a lot of time to think about what was taking place. So I think the elders in the village, they really had an impact on me. And I think that's why when we talk about the village, the community, and the importance of it in rearing children, that's why that is so important. Because when I think back to some of the elders, like just as an example, there was this one woman who owned a shop. And on the counter in this shop, she had huge jars of candy. So when I would be getting ready to go to school, if somebody would try to walk me to school, I would hurry up and leave before them. And this is even before my father left. I would say, because I started school at 3,
Wow.
I would say to the woman in the shop, Mrs. Paul, I would say, Miss Paul, my father said you should give me one of these, one of these, and one of these, and he's going to pay you when he comes back. And Miss Paul, sweet Miss Paul, who knew my dad wasn't there, she would open the jar and she would take out the candy. And so technically I was lying.
Yeah.
She knew that I was lying. She could have said, you're a liar. You know, your father didn't tell you to come in here and get this thing.
Yeah.
But the gentleness of Miss Paul, the understanding that I was probably dealing with a lot of stuff, what I was feeling, that made me feel not as a liar or a thief, but a person who was an extension of the people who cared about me in the community. And so those kinds of things, I think, were inspiring and helped to make me into the person who I am.
Did you think about a specific career path that you wanted to follow?
No, I didn't think about that. I liked the idea of teaching. I liked the teachers who I was exposed to. The idea of transmitting knowledge to other people was really intriguing. I had an experience when I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I couldn't walk. It happened for months, it lasted for months, and I had an older cousin. He was about 10 years older than I was. And one of the things I remembered is that he used to carry me on his back.
Wow.
So he took me to like the doctor, and when I got a little older, like when I was in St. Thomas, probably about 12 or 13, I thought about writing. How do you capture the feeling of dependency, dependence? How do you capture the feeling of gratitude? How do you make other people aware of the privilege that you feel that people took care of you, the gratitude that you feel that somebody did something for you that they didn't have to do, the gratitude that you feel about being born in such a beautiful place, to live your life in such beautiful places like St. Kitts and St. Thomas. How do you capture that? How do you frame it so that other people could understand the intensity of your feeling. And so probably around 12 or 13, that's when I started to think about that I would like to write. I would like to be a writer. I would like to be able to have people understand the incredible beauty of my childhood and my life, and the gratitude and the comfort and the love that I felt from so many people around me. So I think not when I was a small child, but probably as a little child I probably thought about, out of sheer admiration, teachers. And then later on, because of wanting to talk about my life experiences, maybe writing came into it later on.
So you brought up writing. So did you start with literary nonfiction? Were you writing essays, or was it always poetry?
I think first, what I probably found intriguing was my teachers in English, and I grew up in the public schools of the Virgin Islands. I mean, I started with the Seventh-day Adventist school, but my education was primarily in the public school, and I had really, really great teachers. I mean, I had incredible teachers. When I was at the Wayne Aspinall School, teachers like Ruby Simmons and Miss Henry, I can't remember her first name now. When I was in the Charlotte Amalia High School, teachers like Reginald Penn and William Frett and those people who really believed in us. They really believed in us and nurtured our gifts, and our talents. And so composition and structure was important. Learning the language, the rules of grammar, etc. They were really sticklers for that. And so I was intrigued with the form, just narrative, just writing, expository writing. And then I had such an active imagination. So that, of course, gave rise to wanting to create stories, to tell stories. And then I felt like I wanted to sing. So I found in poetry a kind of talking rhythm that was a blessing to me, that writing poetry was really like singing a song, because I didn't have that courage and that feeling of satisfaction with my voice in song. And so writing poetry as a really literary singing was how I really came to experience the joy of writing. And I remember, again, just talking about blessing, my teacher in the 10th grade was Reginald Penn. He lives in the BVI now. And one day he gave us this exam, and I answered one of his questions, and maybe 3 weeks later he brought back the corrected papers, and he said to the class, he said, I want to share something with you all. I want to read something from one of the exams. So he started to read, and I said to myself, I said, but that sounds like what I wrote. That sounds like what I write down on the paper. And after the class, he took me aside and he said, Tregenza, you are already a writer.
Wow.
He said, all I want you to do is keep focused, grow up, become a big person. You are a writer. You already have the gift of writing. And I can't tell you what that did for me. That was such a reassurance that somebody understood you. Somebody really saw almost like what your soul is like. And it's funny, probably 30, 35 years later, I ran into him in the BVI. In fact, I went to look for him. I shouldn't say I ran into him, because I took a copy of the book that I had done to him in the BVI. And I asked him, I said, do you remember what you said to me? And he said, yeah. So he had remembered, and I had remembered. So those are the things that were blessings that led me to that place.
Wow. Do you think that example is one of the reasons you became a teacher?
I think so. I think it's really when you experience what I have as a philosophy is kind of like this. If I know something, I should be able to share it. It's important to share it. Knowledge isn't meant for any of us to hoard. It's not meant to hold on to. You share it. And if I know how to do something, if I understand a rule, if I understand a lesson, if I understand effective uses of language, I should be able to help somebody else understand this. So breaking it down and finding the place where you meet people and common ground and how you can share with them. Yeah, I think that was important in moving to teaching. And I did it primarily at the university.
Yes.
But I visited a lot of classrooms and did even workshops for teachers about how you teach history through literature, or how you teach culture through literature, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So you've worn several hats, in your career. You've been a professor, you were a lawyer, you're a writer. How do these experiences help the other?
Well, maybe at first blush, they might not all seem compatible, but I think life in general, whatever you do, whatever it is your profession, whatever it is that you commit yourself to doing, I think the question is, the struggle is, how do I develop my best self, and how do I become the absolute best person that I can be, that I'm capable of being. And so all of those professions, I think, engage other people. How do I cultivate relationships? How do I ensure that I am contributing to the growth and development of other people? How do I ensure that all of the things that I do are things that reflect what I believe are gifts that God has given me and that He has given to every other person. We may be at different levels of experiencing them, but all these gifts that we have been given to share. And so I look at that, like, how do I draw from each? The lawyer part is understanding what people's needs are, because as a lawyer, that's what people come to you for. They have a problem, they have a need, they need your assistance in some way, shape, or form. Writing is about recognizing the need of people to be inspired, the need for people to feel that their experiences are valid, that the way that they experience life is important to other people, that they have their own stories to tell as well. So they all kind of come together. They're all reflections, I guess, of what are pieces of the human spirit, and how do we capture all of this at the same time.
Okay. Now, I know a few years ago you wrote a book, a children's book called The Lesson Box. What was the inspiration for that?
I had been I wrote it a long time ago, actually. The story was written a long time ago. And other children's stories that I've written a long time ago that I haven't published. But when you look at our community and you think about what are the ways that I can impact the community, I think one great way is through children. Creating literature for children that reflects their history and their culture. And I mean, people may make big differences between what island you come from or what island you grew up on, but we're the same. We're African people who come from a culture of storytelling, who come from an oral culture. And we taught children, we learn through stories. And so the idea was, let's do a book that helps children understand their realities and how their imagination can be grown through literature, and how we can engage them in a way that helps them live more productive lives, and also where they find a place to rest their thinking about morality and about their place in the world. And that's how that came into reality.
Okay, I want to switch lanes a little bit right now. I have a scenario for you. Now, you've retired because all the problems in the territory have been solved.
Oh,
There's
wow,
no
this is
deficit.
great.
Everything is self-sustaining.
Okay. I'd like to hear that.
There's a surplus. Jobs abound. Everything is perfect. It's euphoria.
Yeah.
What would you do?
If everything were going well, the surpluses of money, well, I think I would continue still to grow my passions. I'm always writing, so I wouldn't need that to happen to have me write, because I go home and I write even now. But I think in that question of my next thing, I think I would like to farm.
Really?
I would do some kind of organic farm. I love the idea of putting something into the ground and seeing something come out of it. I learned the real value for the earth from both my grandparents, especially my grandfather, who came from the island of Dominica to St. Kitts, and my mother. My mother can grow anything. I mean, I tell you, anything. If this plant looked like half dead, I know it's plastic, but if it looked like half dead and you don't know what to do with it or whatever, you can carry it to her and she will fix it. So if the idea of being able to feed people too and be able to contribute to the health of people through healthy eating and healthy products, I would do some of that. I would have some organic farm, and then I would have a restaurant that sold the produce
Farm
and
to
the
table.
food, right, that came from this organic farm. So that's what I would do
Okay.
if everything were going well.
I love it. Okay, so tell me about something that you've done or experienced that not many people may know about you.
That I have done or experienced that not many people know. Well, I love culture. I love learning about new cultures. So most people probably don't know that I've touched almost all the continents that I want to go to.
Okay.
The only one left is Antarctica. Oh no, the two are left. So it's Antarctica and Australia.
Okay.
So I have to fix that. My greatest joy in traveling was when I was able to go to represent the territory in Indonesia to a United Nations conference. So people don't know that part. And I think the other part that I would share is that it comes back to that. I've actually had like voice training to cultivate my singing voice. And one of these days I hope to give a concert.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm planning for that. So they don't know that, but now they know.
Yes, they do know that. You heard it here first. What kind of music do you like?
Wow. I like a lot of music.
Okay.
Any music that has the African aesthetic in it. I love the musics of Africa. And I'm one of those people who really believe that I don't need to know what the words are that people are singing. I don't need to be able to translate what they're saying in their music. I feel that music is universal. So the music of the French countries that have the influence of that, like Zaire, the music of places like Cameroon, the music of South Africa, when I went there, how that music just really made you understand what the struggle of those people were through apartheid and the colonization of Southern Africa. So I love all kinds of music. My favorite artist is actually Phyllis Hyman.
Really?
Phyllis is dead, but if you listen to the music of Phyllis Hyman, I don't think you would find somebody who can articulate the lyrics of a song like Phyllis Hyman. Every single syllable, every single word you hear.
Wow.
So if you haven't listened to her extensively, find some music from Phyllis Hyman.
Well.
And it will mash you up. And of course, I love the artists of the Caribbean, but my favorite singer is Phyllis Hyman.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. What has been your proudest moment of your life so far?
The proudest moment of my life. I don't know if it would be the proudest moment of my life, but my aunt who used to live on St. Croix, her name was Grace Knight. She lived in Sion Farm and she died. She had a stroke and she died a couple of years ago. And I was able to, she was a person who always helped my memory. So I was really, really happy that while she was alive and while my mother was alive, I was able to show them this book that I had done and that I had dedicated it to my mom and my aunt, because those are two people who really nurtured my memory. So I was really proud of that as an accomplishment. I think I was really proud too that the people of the Virgin Islands, particularly the people of St. Thomas, St. John, that they believed that I was a person who could contribute to framing good public policy. And I was proud too that they had decided to vote for me. And I was so proud of the people who had come behind me, my committee, my supporters, and who had worked so hard for me to get elected. I was proud that people had invested as much in me, like those supporters, and that the people of the Virgin Islands had seen it and selected me to be one of their representatives. I was very proud of that moment as well.
Okay, so I think for the last question, I just want to know how you can encourage the viewers, you know, what is an experience that you've had to overcome, and how were you able to surpass it, and how can you share that with someone so that they can adopt that and take that into their own lives?
I think what I would say to people, and it's not necessarily a concrete example, it's a spiritual understanding, and it reflects a spiritual awareness that I don't believe that you are your best self when everything is going good around you. You know, it's good to laugh and smile and be happy if your pockets are overflowing and you have your good health and all the people who you love are okay. That's easy. It's easy to be happy in that circumstance. The challenge is when you experience difficult things, whether it's a separation from someone you love, whether you experience a health challenge, whether you experience an economic challenge. We've all been there. Either you leave a job or somebody make you leave the job. These are experiences that help to grow the person who you are. And the challenge is to be your best self, to still maintain a wholesome attitude about yourself and other people despite the challenges that you're going through. Because every single person who is alive experiences challenges, and overcoming them is the beauty of the human spirit. So I would just encourage you, wherever you find yourself, there is a way out of that. Believe in yourself, create supportive networks of people who help you to get through those things. Really believe that you are blessed to be alive and to be here in this place. Believe that. And those things can inspire you through difficult times. And just as I said to you before, any gift or talent that I think I have, I don't believe that that's exclusive. Every single one of us has been blessed with gifts and talents. And you should spend time with yourself. Spend time quietly learning what those gifts are. Because those are what are going to take you through whatever difficulty that you may be experiencing.
I could not have said it better. Thank you so much for your time, Senator.
Thank you for
It was
listening.
a pleasure.
All right.
This was an edition of Meet Your Rep with Senator Tregenza A. Roach. I'm Saida Harrigan for Legit TV. Thanks for tuning in.